In this lecture, I am going to explain about types of aberrations and types of chromatic aberrations. This is a topic in the first unit. Now coming to aberrations. Aberrations means the defects of a lens while forming the image. The definition of aberrations is the deviations from the actual size, shape and position of an image as calculated by simple equations. Simple equations means 1 by f equal to 1 by u minus 1 by v or Lensmaker's formula. The most commonly occurred defects in the images formed by the lens or lens system are blurring in the image, and the size of the image is not as same as the object. The shape of the image is not same as the object, and the location, that means the distance of the image from the lens, is not as same as the object. So these are all counted as defects, aberrations. Now coming to types of aberrations. The aberrations are mainly classified into two types: chromatic aberrations and monochromatic aberrations. Mono means single. So if the light is having a single wavelength, then that light is said to be monochromatic light. With the use of monochromatic light, some aberrations occur, hence they are again classified into five types: spherical aberration, chromatic aberration, astigmatism, distortion, and curvature. In this lecture, I am going to explain about chromatic aberrations and their types. The chromo means color. So if the light that is made to fall, that means the incident light on the lens is not monochromatic, that means not of single wavelength, then the image formed by the lens becomes multicolored, and the defect is said to be chromatic aberration. That means if the light is multicolored light, then in the formation of image, there occur some colors, unwanted colors. That is said to be a defect, and that defect is chromatic aberration. Now, white light is having all possible wavelengths. That means white light is a multi-colored light. So, when a parallel beam of light is made to incident on a convex lens, then these rays converges at a single point. Hence, this convex lens is said to be a convergence lens, and this is said to be principal focus, and the center of the lens is said to be optic center. The distance between optic center and the principal focus is said to be focal length. So, when the light is allowed to pass through a lens, then dispersion occurs, which means the multicolored light deviates or divides into its or splits into its constituent colors. In case of white light, we can observe the Vizier colors. So in that, the extreme colors are violet and red. Hence, we are considering these two colors here. Other colors are in between. Now, the refractive index of violet light is more when compared to refractive index of red color. And the refractive index is inversely proportional to wavelength. That means focal length. So, as the refractive index of violet color light is greater, its focal length is less. In the similar manner, as the refractive index of red is less, the focal length is greater. That means all the violet light rays converges at a point FV, and all the red colored light rays converges at the point F of R. So here a violet color image is formed, and here a red color image is formed, which means if we place a screen here, you will see a violet image at the center and red image around that. And if you place image here, you can see a red image at the center and violet on the surface. If a screen is moved between this point to this point, then the image is not clear, which means the image is blurring, and this defect is said to be chromatic aberration. So here, for one object there must be one image, but we are seeing here two images, which means the defect. So if you use a concave lens, then here also you can observe chromatic aberration. Now, coming to the types of chromatic aberration, the chromatic aberrations are mainly classified into two types: longitudinal chromatic aberration and lateral chromatic aberration. Coming to longitudinal chromatic aberration, the formation of images of different colors in different position along the axis. This is important here. Along the axis of the lens, then that is said to be longitudinal or axial chromatic aberration. The longitudinal means parallel. So here, suppose white light is allowed to fall on the lens. Here, this image, this diagram is somewhat wrong. At the vertex, diffraction does not take place. So light is allowed to fall like this, and here also like this. Then the dispersion occurs. The light splits into its constituent colors, and as we discussed earlier, the violet image is formed here and red image is formed here. Now there is a gap between violet image and red image along the axis. Hence this defect is said to be a longitudinal chromatic aberration. And mathematically, this longitudinal chromatic aberration can be written as IR minus IV. Now, if the object is placed at infinity, that means at larger distances, then the longitudinal chromatic aberration is equal to the difference in focal lengths of red and blue colors, because for a distant object or for the object at infinity, a convex lens forms the image exactly at its focal point. Hence, the violet image is having its focal length, that means focal length for violet color, and the red image is formed at the distance f of r, that means focal length of red color. So for the object at infinity, the longitudinal chromatic aberration is f of r minus fv. In case of convex lens, the longitudinal chromatic aberration is positive, and in case of concave lens, it is negative, because convex lens forms both real and virtual images, whereas concave lens forms only virtual images. Virtual means imaginary. Hence, in case of concave lens, the longitudinal chromatic aberration is negative, and in case of convex lens, the longitudinal chromatic aberration is positive. Now coming to lateral chromatic aberration. Lateral means perpendicular direction here. When the images of different colors are formed by the lens of different sizes, then the defect is called as lateral chromatic aberration. This occurs due to the fact that magnifications of white object is different for different colors. Here the name magnification. What is magnification? Magnification means the ratio between size of the image and size of the object. For example, suppose here an object size is 2 centimeters. When the light rays from this object are made to pass through this lens, it forms the image like this. Suppose the image size is 6 centimeters. Now, the magnification can be calculated as size of the image 6 centimeters divided by size of the object 2 centimeters, that is equal to 3. So in this case, the magnification is 3. Suppose the size of the image is less when compared to size of the object, then the image is said to be diminished. If the image size is greater than the object, then the image is said to be magnified, and if the image size is less than the object size, then it is said to be diminished. So here we are considering only magnified images. So in case of white object, the magnifications are different for different colors. So if a white light is coming from this object and allowed to pass through the convex lens, then it forms different colored images. For violet, this is the image, and for red, this is the image. Here you can see the size of the violet image is less when compared to size of the red image by an amount as shown here. So mathematically, we can say that the lateral chromatic aberration is equal to the size of the red image AR BR minus size of the violet image AV BV. So this difference in sizes is a measure of lateral chromatic aberration. So if you consider the defect along the axis, you will get the longitudinal chromatic aberration, and if you consider the defects along the, that means perpendicular to the axis, optic axis, so the axis that is passing through the optic center of the lens is said to be optic axis. So if the defect is perpendicular to the optic axis, it is said to be a lateral chromatic aberration. So depending upon the direction, you will get two types of chromatic aberration. If you are having any doubts, you may ask me through your WhatsApp group. Thank you.